Stay tuned for the Joan Quinn Profiles. Joan served the state of California as a member on the Arts Council and on the Film Commission. She was formerly on the Architectural Commission and fulfilled 2 terms on the Fine Arts Commission for the city of Beverly Hills. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview magazine, Condé Nast Publications, and the Hearst Corporation, Joan covered the world of fashion, the mysteries of food, the excitement of theater, and the international art scene. She continues to find people who are on the cutting edge of their professions. Here's Joan Agajanian Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. We're taping here at the Max Factor building, and it's the wonderful Hollywood Museum. Our guests are performer Nicholas Guest and photographer Maggie Lynch. Performer, writer, voiceover actor Nicholas Guest was born and raised in New York. He studied acting with William Hickey and Stella Adler. You've seen him on the New York stage in recurring roles on TV like USA High, Mad Men. You've seen him in films, the Trading Places and National Lampoon's Christmas, right?
Right. It was an amazing experience.
And you've heard his voice in Disney's Frozen and Tangled, and also John Teller, right?
John Teller, Sons of Anarchy. I was in the first couple of seasons, I was the voice whenever he would read the diary.
Oh, so it would be in the background, the voice.
Yeah. It was quite amazing as an experience, actually.
So here you are. You're looking for yourself.
I've always been looking for myself. For some reason, starting at age 5, I was always lost. But
really lost?
Well, I was actually lost at Yankee Stadium. I'd begged my family to take me to a Yankee game, and my older brother was going, and I got under the bed, and I held my breath and said, I'm going to just hold it until you say yes.
Until you take me?
Yes. So I got to Yankee Stadium, and they said, which in those days it was okay for a kid to go up, and get a hot dog. It was a different,
alone, you mean?
Alone. And I got there, I got the hot dog, and then I looked out, and I was like, oh my God, I have no idea where I am.
Oh my gosh.
It was quite an interesting, so I've been carrying that with me ever since.
So you are looking for yourself at the Zephyr Theater.
I am, desperately.
And it's called Finding Nick.
Finding Nick, yeah. I mean, it's a recurring theme, yeah.
So how did this start?
It started actually, as so many of these things do. We had hired, about 4 or 5 years ago, we'd hired this guy who actually worked at the Matrix Theater. Mm-hmm. He was doing work there backstage and that sort of thing. I can't remember his official title.
But one thing, let me just
Please,
interject.
you must all the time.
Because the Zephyr, the Matrix,
right.
The Coast, all these theaters in Los Angeles are fabulous theaters.
They really
the
are.
Odyssey.
Yeah.
No one gives us credit for having this many great theaters.
They're just superb. But what happened is this man who happens to be from India originally, he's also a house painter and was at our house painting, and he happened to hear me play a French song on the guitar, and he said, tonight we will record these. And he had this studio, so we started recording these songs that I loved, having lived in France, right? And then, I don't know, a few weeks later, he said, now we're going to do the show. And he said, Joe Stern, who runs the Matrix, will let us do an evening there.
Give you the evening, yeah?
Gave us the evening, and it went over well. And then it's taken all these years later, and fortunately, Lee Sankiewicz, who runs the Zephyr, was there that night. So
way back?
Way back. He saw that, because he goes way back with my wife. He directed her in the play.
She's an actress, too.
She's a brilliant actress, yes. And in fact, we met acting on a film called Assassin in Mexico City, and I was supposed to be the bad guy. And the director got very concerned because the way I was talking to her character sounded like I was in love with her.
Oh,
and that was indeed the case. So it's like, I'm the villain, and I came in and I said, Claire, are you okay? You know what I mean?
Ooh.
As opposed to, I'm going to kill you. So we've been together ever since. Yeah.
Is that right?
It's true.
You spoke to her the right way.
I spoke to her the right way.
That's fantastic. So you just mentioned you were living in France. Your father was with the UN.
He was,
right?
yeah. That's right.
But he wasn't an actor.
No, he was actually, before he met my mother, he hurt his knee, but he was actually an amazing ballet dancer.
You're kidding.
No, I'm not. He was with the Dolan, I'm blanking on the name, of course. It was Dolan.
Oh, the Anthony Dolan.
Anthony Dolan.
From London.
That's
Anthony
right.
Dolan.
And he was on tour, and a friend of my mother said, I'd like you to meet this dancer, and they met, and that was it.
You mean, so that's how they met?
That's how they met.
She wasn't a dancer,
No,
though.
he was touring the States, actually. And
Oh,
they
she
met.
was here?
She was in New York. Yeah, this was somewhere in New York.
Oh, that's so great.
Bizarre.
So how did he become, how did
Well,
he get
had gone
involved
to-
in the UN?
He had gone to Oxford. He was incredibly well educated. His father was in Parliament and ultimately in the House of Lords. His father was actually in the House of Commons. He was
Oh,
one of
really?
the founders of something. Have you heard of the Fabian Society? But it was people like George Bernard Shaw, and they were, making sure that kids were okay. He was involved. He was a doctor as well, my grandfather.
Oh, he was?
And, yeah, was very involved with, poor kids and creating clinics in England. So it was like a Renaissance man, actually. He wrote a lot of books.
Really?
Yeah, I only met him very briefly when I was around 5 years old. And he was stern, but he had a great sense of humor as well, as did my father.
But how could he, from that kind of background, accept your father, who was a ballet dancer?
I have no idea.
Really?
I really
It's a
don't.
tough one,
One
isn't
of his
it?
kids was a doctor also. The
Yes,
other kid
so
was a
there you are.
mathematician. No, it was interesting. I never asked about that, but it was somewhat short-lived, and because he'd had this amazing education, he was easily got a job at the UN, and he became the head of the editorial department there in New York.
Oh, that's what so he was a
Yeah.
career man.
He was.
He was a career.
The brilliant thing is, it was really like a professor's salary. So it had nothing to do with money, but the perks were phenomenal, and that's what changed our lives. All of the kids. Every other year, the UN would pay for us to go across on those ocean liners, which we normally did.
Yeah.
At the time, it was like $200, but in any case, the UN paid.
Yeah.
And then we just traveled all over Europe, and that's where I just fell in love with different languages, and not to mention accents.
Why was he going around Europe?
Well, that's what we were able to do. It was so cheap then to travel.
You mean it was just his vacation?
Yeah. He
Oh, it
had
was just his
we had
vacation?
3 or 4 months. So, and speaking of finding, when we'd get to England, all of us had we would get clothes so that we would pass as English, and we'd be there and say, "Is everything all right? Is everything okay?" And literally wanted to be. That was kind of the beginning of finding Nick accepted wherever I went.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah.
So that's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
If all of this is in the background of Nick.
Well, it is in the sense that I mean, my father always spoke a lot of French to me, and he was incredibly entertaining, actually.
He spoke French.
He
So
spoke
you
French.
speak
He spoke some. Yes, I speak fluent French, but he was also good with every other language. He had learned quite a bit of Russian. But for
from his
example, we'd
career.
say, "Good night, Dad," and he'd go, "I'm not your father," and just like fall on the ground. He was always entertaining us.
Is that right?
Yeah, it was like growing up with a Monty Python character.
So it was showbiz.
It was show business. I mean,
It did really influence you.
when he was much older, I went to a studio with him, and he recorded all kinds of voices. I mean, he could have done that, but
So there's your voiceover.
the voiceover was at every dinner. Every dinner that we had, there were a million
You would
voices
change
going
it.
on.
So do all of these come out in the play?
A fair number of them, actually. I had, for example, actually one character that I made. My wife suggested that he be Russian instead of this other British character, and that was easy because I went to the UN school in New York, and
you did go to that school?
I did. That's where I graduated from, and our
how
graduation
lucky.
was amazing. Was at the UN. It was
So
like
lucky, I know. 49th and Fifth Avenue.
The Secretary General was there at our graduation. It was insane.
So great.
I know, but I had this Russian coach, for soccer, and it was Nikolai. Are you ready to? You are going to play soccer, football. So he's in the show.
He is in the show.
Yeah, everyone I've encountered is somewhere, during that time frame.
So you were studying acting in New York, obviously, and
Yeah.
your first job was with
Maureen Stapleton.
and Tony Perkins?
And Tony Perkins was directing, and he was brilliant and very funny.
Did you know Tony as just a friend?
No, I was.
Oh, you didn't?
Maureen introduced me to him, and Barry Berenson, who
Because
was.
we knew them.
Oh, really?
Of
Yeah.
course, we
Yeah.
knew Barry and her
She
sister.
was
and
incredible, sweet person.
I
So we
know.
went on tour up and down the East Coast. It was insane.
But you were young.
I was 20. Yeah, it was amazing. And Maureen was just a genius to start off with her. Are you kidding?
You said you were with your family. Were there brothers? Were there sisters?
Well, we would see. Come to think of it, we would see my brother Anthony, who was from my father's source, first wife.
Anthony Hayden Guest.
Anthony Hayden Guest.
Who's a good friend of mine, because we worked at Interview together.
Incredible. Brilliant
And I see him in
journalist.
New York.
Yeah. So Anthony and I have sort of breakfast when we're in New York.
Yes.
And so he refers to himself as Hayden Guest.
Yes.
Which I am officially, but they just...
You are too?
My middle name is Hayden, but it's really, my name is Hayden Guest, Nicholas Hayden with a hyphen, which of course
So
he
he's
does.
So he's
Yeah.
a writer.
He's a writer.
So there's a lot of artistic side.
There is, and the thing is, like, the milieu that we were in was, the Upper West Side. Eli Wallach was like an uncle, I saw Lotta Lenya perform.
Yeah.
And I saw Sid Caesar on Broadway when I was about 9 years old, and Little Me. Do you
So
remember that?
so they were taking you
They
to
took,
all
it
this.
was amazing. I
You
was
have another
very
brother?
blessed. Brother Christopher.
He's a director?
He's a director and an actor, and I have a sister who's a writer. So it was
Oh,
all.
you have a sister too?
Yeah. And my kids now, for example, my daughter is a brilliant actress, writer.
She's in the show?
No, but
Who's in the show? There's another
it's
guest.
just me. Well, it's just is
It
David
said
Barber
something.
still here?
David Barber.
I can explain this at another time.
What is that? I thought that what's
No,
your
I have
daughter's
a
name?
musician, Elizabeth.
Oh, Elizabeth, yeah.
But she now helps me, since she's a brilliant actress and writer.
Yeah.
When I have an audition, she works with me,
Uh-huh.
and she'll say, "Dad, you're just phoning it in. You need to go in the other room and really think about what you're saying."
She'll tell you what to do.
She'll tell me, and she's just
Well,
very
but
gifted.
her mother's a great actress too.
Her mother taught me a whole other way of acting, Pam.
I see.
Okay,
so here we have, you're Finding Nick, you're at the Zephyr Theater, you needed a director.
Lee, as I said, Lee Sankiewicz happened to have seen that first.
But he's part of the Zephyr artistic.
He runs the Zephyr.
I got
He's
it.
brilliant and wonderful, kind, amazing
I got it.
person. Yes.
And you needed a producer.
Yeah, so Raquel,
Raquel
and
Lerman.
Victoria, yeah.
Fantastic.
And very blessed, yeah.
And music. That's
There's
where
music.
I thought
Yeah,
your
my
daughter came in.
Oh, my guitar teacher is a genius, and he's in the show playing along with me because I'm not a genius. When I strum and I sing in French and English.
I see,
But
I
we
see.
also have a brilliant cellist. His name is Tony Carafone, and Hilary Smith is the brilliant cellist.
Oh, you have a cellist
Which
too.
makes all the difference, particularly if you're singing in French. It's just magical,
It just brings it all out.
It really does, actually. It's very soulful,
Okay, now what voiceovers are you going to use in the show?
Well, the thing is, every person I do has a different
Is a
voice.
voiceover?
It's like
I
going
guess.
into another, whether it's Bill Hickey or the Russian history teacher.
What about something that you would have done for Frozen?
Well, no, actually I did some Brits that were running up towards the castle at the end,
That's
the
how it
Frozen
is?
castle. I do that sort of thing, which I grew up with. When we were in London, we were exposed to that sort of thing, And of course, having lived in France, that this man who was like a father to me when I was living in France, who he was just a major influence. He's in the show. His son has a great nickname. Pilou is in the show, who we visited recently in France.
Oh, he's a real person.
He's a real person.
He's a real
Jean-Claude was in an anti-fascist group when he was my age, and was arrested, went to a concentration camp, and learned how to meditate from this man who was in the camp, and that's what saved his life. It's unbelievable.
So do you tell part of this story?
I tell a lot of that.
How long is the show?
It's unbelievable. It's only 13 seconds. No, it's
No.
it's
And we found you in 13 seconds?
remember those Shakespeare things where they do it really quickly? No, it's 52 minutes, which is great because
No.
I remember Maureen Stapleton saying, "We've got to go faster. They're going to fall asleep."
Oh, she
so
did?
it's absolutely perfect. He said, and Lee said, you don't want it to be too long when they're starting to say, okay, now I'm getting annoyed with you. Do you know what I mean? There are too many
But
stories.
52 minutes, I'm
It's
just
just
starting to like you.
Exactly. Now it's time to leave, and
Oh.
next door is Antonio's.
You go for your Mexican food?
Well, it's just, and people can get into their pajamas quickly and watch whatever's on TV that night. They're not, somebody said to me, thank God it's 52 minutes because I've gone to shows where I feel trapped,
Oh, where they
And then
can't.
there's the parking, and I regret having gone.
No intermission,
No.
obviously.
Yeah.
You just start and go
Yeah.
through. What about the set?
The set is terrific, actually. They ended up they have actual pictures of places where you know, the school I went to in Geneva, the International School of Geneva. And by the way, my son ended up on the producer side of things, so he could have been an actor, but he runs, he's head of development. I'm very proud of him. For Sean Levy, you know, who does those Night at the Museum movies. Yeah.
Oh, he's the...
I like to plug, you know, the kids, people. You know.
Yes, and what? And Elizabeth, what's she doing?
She's an actress and a writer, and she's with, you know, Upside Citizens Brigade, which I rarely can pronounce that properly, UCB.
Oh, yeah.
She's an improv person.
Oh,
which
she is.
I did that,
yeah,
too.
yeah.
I think it's...
Did you?
Oh, God.
Because it's great training.
Oh, it's essential training. You know, I can't imagine not doing that. Like Alan Arkin, for example, who is like a mentor to me when I was starting, was, you know, one of the great geniuses as an improv person.
But how did you find all this acting stuff around you to be mentoring you and helping you? Because you came from a political background,
well,
so
no,
to
but
speak.
I mean, it was also political / that theater world that I was saying before, like Eli Wallach, you know, lived down
but
the
he
street.
lived by you.
Yeah, but well,
were you
actually,
friends?
it was an amazing experience. Okay, so his son Peter, who was the best man, our wedding.
Oh, so you were close because you were neighbors.
Well, here's what happened. We were living in the village at the time, and I ran into Eli's son, Peter, and we both were cowboys when we were 5 years old. This is a true story. And then Eli and Annie were doing a play in London, and we went to London, and I was walking down the street, and I saw Peter, and we drew. We were like these 5-year-old kids. What other kid in London
would know that?
Would know
or
that.
Could
And
run
so,
into each other either.
And then they became fast friends and for life, actually.
Were you on the stage in London?
No, I did a film there, though. I had a great time. We filmed at Shepperton.
Oh, yes.
It's
Is
really
it good?
funny. Well, it's thrilling because one of the first things that happens is you have a stand-in come up to you and he goes, I shall be your stand-in, Nick, for the film. I know all your lines. If you need to go over them, I've got them all for you. And, you know, anything, I can get you a cup of tea, you know. I mean, it's this whole tradition, you know. And you're referred to as the artistes.
Oh, are you?
And you also gain weight because they bring trolleys and trolleys of
They're
you know,
really that
food.
good there?
Oh, my God. Butter and...
No,
you know,
I
clotted
meant,
cheese.
I meant at the
Oh, yeah.
studios.
No,
They're
they
feeding
are.
you all the time.
Also, there's an honesty. I don't know what it's like now, but this was a while ago. I remember going on an interview at Pinewood, you know,
yeah,
the other
the other one, yeah.
And I walked in, and the casting director said, no, too young, sorry, would you like a glass of wine?
Oh,
and it was great. They tell you, they don't
Too
say,
young.
oh, I love you, we're going to work together. They're just so honest. And then for about half an hour, we talked about whatever was playing in the West End then.
Oh, you talk about
theater. Chekhov, and so it's a whole other environment.
Yeah.
They also don't particularly audition you, or they didn't then. They look at your resume and think, oh, yes, you could do this.
He can do, yeah.
I had that experience once with a guy who'd worked predominantly in England, and I said, I don't really look like this guy. And he goes, we'll put a moustache on you and then, you know, change a few things, and then we're ready to go.
How do you know who you are? I
I
mean, this
don't.
is really tough finding Nick. Because
it is
look at all
tough.
these voices and all these accents and all these people, you know.
What happened, though, which I deal with in the play, is that what's great is I was always looking for myself, but now that I get paid to do it, it's thrilling because what you discover is all of these people are different sides of you. And one thing that Bill Hickey said in that class, and I discussed it in the play, says, has anyone here ever imagined mugging someone? And we're all like, what? He goes, if you can't imagine you're a mugger, you can't be an actor. And
Really?
Really? In other words, you have to imagine, you have to look
afar.
at dark sides
Right.
of yourself. And so
And
that's I think that in that regard, obviously not people who get, you know, all twisted and obsessed with themselves, but that it's a very healthy profession. For
Is
that
there
reason.
a dark side in this, Nick?
No, I mean, it's just some sad stories, you know.
So-
no, not a dark side, no.
No,
But
so we're not delving into
no,
its
but
finding.
a lot of the first parts I got, though, it was easy for me to play lunatics, you know. I was in The Bell Jar. Do you remember?
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
the
I
Sylvia
do.
Plath?
I do. Yeah, Sylvia Plath.
So-
That's pretty loony.
The audition, remember, again, everything has changed now where the director needs approval from the studio, and it goes on. I was sitting across from in a tiny office with the director. I can't say everything that he said here. But he said, you know, essentially, can you be insane? And I started making these insane noises, and he said, you're in the movie.
That was it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was great.
And I played a lunatic in the movie. It was my first part.
So you're in the Quinn. You're in the Quinn profiles.
That's
you
right.
made it.
I made
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
It's really
Nick.
been fun.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate it.
Don't go away. We'll be right back with Maggie Lynch. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome back to the Joan Quinn Profiles. We're taping at the Hollywood Museum, and I'm here with photographer, poet, author, Maggie Lynch. She's with us today to talk about her book, For You. Maggie was born and raised in New York, attended Colby College, where she was awarded an honorary BA, then went on to get an MAT at Harvard. What career path were you planning to follow?
Well, actually, I was invited to go to Harvard, and I just went without any thought of what I was going to do or be. I was going to get out early and cut down the years I had to be in college, so I ended up with a master's at teaching.
And did you teach?
I did for a while, and I realized, you know, this is all I know. This is all I've ever done or been, so I left to pursue other.
And what were you doing? Were you doing photography? Were you writing?
You know, I had a camera, and I got in my car and left for California.
Ah,
And so the camera was really the only thing I had with me.
is that right?
Yeah, so...
This project didn't start at that time, did it?
Oh, no, not for years and years and years.
And this project For You, this beautiful, charming little book, took how long to put together?
I think a couple years, but I think it was a couple years before that to break through and decide, why does the world need another book?
Exactly.
And to decide what I would say and to exercise those parts of myself that were shy.
Had you written before?
No.
So this was like your first experience. But you had taken photographs. Had you ever exhibited your photographs?
No. And
So how were you so bold to decide that the world needed another book? Because that's very bold.
Yes, it is. Well, I do a lot of energy work with people, and I just had some messages for them. I wanted to be short and succinct and get them thinking in broader perspective. And I wanted to challenge those parts of myself that just really didn't think I could do it.
Well, I called you a poet, and you said that you're just writing. Did you take writing classes at Harvard?
No,
You never took writing classes?
no.
Where did you take this internal kind of, what did you call it?
Energy.
Energy work. Did
Yeah.
you take classes for that?
I did have a mentor in Pasadena when I got to California, but I think I was 35 at the time by then. And I also was very interested in channeled materials.
So is that how these photographs come about?
Well,
Are you channeling different things?
I think, in a way, I feel very close to light and spirit and all those good things at the time when I'm channeling. I mean, when I'm taking a photograph.
When you were taking photographs, did you have a favorite photographer in mind?
No.
You have no. Were you interested in photography or famous photographers?
Well, you know, I'm more interested now. I'm looking back to see different people and the way they went, but it was really self-taught and just going by the seat of my pants and looking at photographs all the time in magazines and here and there. But really, it's just a moment, and then you say, I got to take this.
So this is one of your photographs. It looks like petals on a pool.
Yes, it is.
It looks very much like a painting, a watercolor that Peter Alexander did. And it's actually hanging at Disney Hall right now.
Oh,
It's like
fantastic.
lovely pink petals from a pool in Santa Monica. What did you see in this picture that you wanted to put in the book?
Okay, I really enjoy making a photograph look like a painting.
Ah, so I was right.
Yes, you were right on there. It's just something about it, and just loving, you know, go to a museum, see wonderful paintings, and there's a certain challenge in it.
And you call that My Camera? Well, what's the name of it? My Camera Says.
My camera says.
And how did you find the words Will you read those for
I'd
us?
be happy to. It says, my camera says capturing, then it says processing. Capturing and processing. So when you take a picture, if it's not caught up in time, your camera will actually say processing. Is capturing an aggressive word for co-creation? That's what it takes. Grab the light, pull the light in, capture it. Is processing an arduous word for co-creation? That's what it takes, co-creation. Digest the light, saturate the light, process it. My camera captures and processes with such ease.
Then there's other things that you talk about your camera,
Oh yeah,
but your camera doing things like
Oh, yeah.
like this one, this piece is very foggy,
yes.
and it says my camera again. Then there's another piece, this one, I think, camera.
I think that's my favorite one.
This I was going to ask you. So this is your camera, and what do you say about your camera in this piece?
That's the one I would love to read.
Okay.
Okay, this one says, first years with the camera, you take what the camera sees. Next years with the camera, you take what the viewer sees.
I know, I read that, so nice.
Later years with the camera, you take what your eye sees.
I know, I think it's beautiful. So that was one of the ones that I chose too as my favorite.
Thanks.
When you put the book together, did you need an editor?
You know, I have a beautiful story about an editor. I put a book together, I gave it out for Christmas. It was much larger, I had no table of contents, it wasn't edited. A man came to my house to talk to me about a friend of mine who had died who was a friend of his. When he left, I gave him my book. He called me up, he said, I'm an editor, you need to edit your book.
Well, that was actually very nice,
Yes,
wasn't
it was very providential.
So he edited this book?
Yes, he did.
And-
Howie Sand.
Who is it?
Howie Sand.
And he was a professional editor?
Yes, he is.
And then how did you react to him and what he was doing with your work?
I was delighted. You know, I thought he made a lot of good improvements, and a couple of times he would miss the mark and change it too much, or, you know, but he only changed a few words or the positioning, and we went back and forth about whether it should have punctuation or not, and, you know, he was very, very helpful.
Well, For You has some really beautiful photographs in it and some wonderful words. And I thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
And keep writing, JAQUINN1 at AOL.com. See you next time.